Hello, we're back. We're doing I'm in a Car with Mr. Jeff MacIntyre. Welcome to the show, sir.
I thought this was an Uber. I thought we were going to get beer at Wellington.
Well, sorry to disappoint.
Can we do both?
Yeah. All right, let's do it. We can go to what is it, Royal City Brewery?
Oh, I'm joking.
I'm not.
Yeah, good.
I mean, we're driving.
Got to do something.
We can serve a purpose, right? I mean,
Can't just be wisdom.
being smart with our time is kind of important, right? I mean, like, I got 3 kids, getting to the beer store, it's not easy. So maybe if I take the opportunity of doing I'm in a Car just to go grab beer, do beer runs, I could be taking like a literal page out of your book.
Changes everything.
Yeah, that's it, right? So, you've seen them. We typically do a little intro just so the audience has a kind of clue in terms of who you are, because as much as you're popular to some, not everybody knows who Jeff MacIntyre
Lucky
is.
people who don't.
So you just give us a little rundown in terms of what you've been up to the last couple of years and what you're up to these days?
I hate that question. Entrepreneur, best described. I think as soon as I can spell it, I will officially retire from being one. The hardest word the hardest position, and ultimately one of the harder words to continually to spell. I started in the pharmaceutical industry years ago, and I realized very quickly that I'm a really...
That explains like the Twitch, doing pharma.
It'll level out soon. I just realized I was a really bad employee.
Yeah.
And self-professed. I've declared this many times. So,
yeah.
And the reason for that, I was always looking for something more. So I playing within the box and within the rules of being an employee was very difficult. So I moved my way up, became the CEO of a company when I was 35, and I remember putting my feet up on the desk saying, I've made it, I have the card, and 3 months later I resigned and said, I'm a sales guy, this is what I do. So I said, it's not good for the organization for me to be in that position. And then took some other jobs, and really, probably 11, 12 years ago now, was exited during the recession. Best thing that ever happened, I guess 10 years ago, exited as a recession, and best thing that ever happened to me. And literally that day, it wasn't this big relief, but that day, I just started to do what I needed to do, and that was really thrive as an entrepreneur.
Cool. So, it's even that, and not to stick on that idea too much, but I find, as cliche as it is, there's always a silver lining, right, in the clouds. And in my experience, anyway, for me, my worst times have either built character and resiliency that has served me for my life, or even what I thought to be the worst time ended up being an amazing experience. And I've got a whole bunch of stories about that, but I'm not going to get into it. So I think it's just important.
On that, I mean, that's really what I wanted. And in fact, that evening, I got all of my friends together and we celebrated. Because I think it was exactly it was like, finally, I'm forced to do what I need to do.
Right. Your path was shaped.
It was perfect.
So then, what happened?
Then I just started kind of reaching out and determining really what I was good at. And in doing so, I really realized that helping other people to take the stress off their plate was really important. I think I can logically apply the rules of logical rules of business development and sales, and cut through the passion into what's real.
Right.
Was really important, and started doing that for myself too. So probably spent a few years, to be honest, as my partner watching this would say, probably spent too much time making other people money.
Right.
And then I realized that, money's the thing that we need to do whatever we need to do. And so I started pulling back a little bit and said, okay, I'm going to assist, and I'm going to help them achieve, but at the same time, I'm going to ask for something in return, or I'm going to be a part of something that's my own.
Cool.
So I'm being very vague, but
no, that's cool. But yeah, well, let's go into some of those things. Like, what kind of what projects did you get into? What kind of entrepreneurial endeavors for something that we don't have to write down and spell?
So, as a person who became an entrepreneur, I thought it was really important that I owned a business.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to be like an expert, and I equated it to a Catholic priest giving marriage counseling. I didn't think that was applied because I read a book. I knew how to parent, or I knew how to be in a marriage. So I jumped in, started an organization from scratch, and thought foolishly, like a lot of people do, I open a business. I'm Jeff MacIntyre. Everybody knows me. I opened up a little winemaking business.
Let's go, sales!
Come on. I opened the door. I turned the sign on. I dressed special that day. Crickets. And it was...
What's that? Yeah, Field of Dreams is a bunch of shit.
This is...
Kevin Costner, you failed me.
This is ridiculous. But the fun part about that whole process was it really shaped me, defined me. And to be honest, and for anyone kind of feeling this entrepreneurial spirit there were times where I weighed it all out. It's like, okay, I incorporated. I could dump this thing. I could do whatever, right? And if anyone who says that hasn't crossed their mind is lying.
Right.
So
I'm there, man. I'm with you. There's been times where I've been like, fuck this, I'm getting a job.
Yeah. So I thought, well, interesting you say that, because then I was like, I can't do this. This is not me. I'm not like Mr. Hooper working the general store on Sesame Street. I need to be out there. So I found that I was bringing employees in to do the work. And what I realized was, in doing that, it wasn't my bread and butter, but I still was an employer. I still was, responsible for marketing, sales. I was understanding taxes and finances and recruiting and all the other things.
And the core of a business.
Yeah, but really what I flipped it to then was, I got to go get a job. Again, I'm not good at that, so I couldn't get a real job, but I had to create other jobs and other income streams. And then in doing so, was able to create a jobs creator and a good business that ultimately I'm in the position that I'm selling right now. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Second one, sorry to ramble, but
no,
it's
that's
kind of
the point. I think this is going to all segue into the point, right?
Interesting story is the next piece of the puzzle was at a vacant piece of property. Someone I know had a 5,000 square feet office space, and they just couldn't rent it. It was an odd space. So we said, what if I furnished it, put a bunch of different businesses in there, supplied everything. Basically, they could move in, plug and play.
Yeah.
And I take the risk. I buy the furniture. I provide the internet. I provide the utilities, the office cleaning, and I just made it simple. And what I was trying to do was, some of those things I had learned by opening the wine store was, if I can eliminate some of those barriers or some of those pinch and pain points, maybe I could do that. So I had 7 businesses move into this place.
Awesome.
And it was pretty cool. And I use the analogy in that model. It gave them what they wanted. Use a case of 24 water bottle. If you buy them in bulk, it's $3 or $4 or $5. I don't buy a water bottle, but if I did bottled water, but if I did, it's $4. But if you sell them for $1 each, you get $24. So that made sense.
Yeah.
So that's in play, and that'll go on, probably the next 10, 20 years. So I created a nice little annuity business. I still have debt, but it's okay because it's gonna move back. And then really moved into just sales, business development. So I parachuted into a couple companies, realized that what I wanted to say to them was their baby's ugly and it's not going to make it.
They love you.
Owners don't want to hear that. And ultimately there was this pinch point to say, if you want to be successful, in my opinion, humble, I don't know shit, but if you do, this is some things you should consider. And ultimately bankrupt being an option or restructuring, and they didn't want to hear it. So inevitably those left. So, and then landed on something else. So
yeah. So, and in that, president of the Chamber of Commerce, Kitchener-Waterloo for.
I did. I was chair of the board of the Chamber of Commerce for a while. President is paid.
Oh, right.
Chair, unpaid.
Right. Volunteer,
remember this whole thing doing a lot unpaid? Yeah, that was my...
and then what other things in the community have you been up to?
So I was heavily involved in... I've been on boards of directors and committees. I've done fundraising. I've done... I'm chair of a board right now that I'm winding down. I'm also the vice chair of the Waterloo Region Economic Development Corporation, too, to kind of community build.
So you don't have any children?
I do. They're older ones. It's working and making money now.
What up?
She's a nurse, graduated, and is now gainfully employed.
So you're owner of multiple businesses, also having a job, also chairs of boards, and involved volunteering in other organizations, and dad.
Yeah.
And
not very bright.
And you're just like, whatever, I'm cool. So this kind of leads into that whole thing around, when we were out at the golf tournament, Jeff and I had this great conversation, and you just had this, like, hey, I kept asking, like, what are you doing? I was like, so when do you sleep? Like, how do you manage all this stuff when you've got all these other things in life that need to be happening? And that's kind of where we got into the conversation of this, like, simplifying life. So I don't know if you want to just provide a little bit of insight and kind of how you think about that.
Yeah, I think, thanks. First of all, I've been gifted with the ability to sleep faster than most people, meaning I don't need as much. I don't sleep a lot. I never have.
Right.
And it's not...
So that people are just like, bah.
It's not that it's this badge, but...
it helps.
It helps that I can my body gets what it needs, and if that means I'm crashing at 9 or 10 or 11 or 1 or getting up at 3 or 4 or 5, it doesn't matter. And I usually, for the longest time, I struggled with that and thought, I gotta get sleep, because someone at one point told me you need 8 hours.
Right.
And I realized that I made the analogy, and I've helped a lot of people with this too, is that you wouldn't put gas in your car if it didn't need gas.
Yeah.
So I've psychologically messed myself up to thinking that I'm doing okay.
Right.
So, good or bad, that's the reality that I live in. But I think it comes down to say yes, and I'll go back to the changes that I made 3 or 4 years ago. I would say yes to everything, and I still do to a certain extent. And yes might be advice, and yes might be assistance,
or an interview.
But I think there's little nuggets of wisdom in this whole thing. I've had great mentors in my life, and one of the best mentors I had in my life was the biggest asshole I've ever met. Because not everyone has to have hero worship, right? This guy was a cheat, a thief, a liar. He's the scourge of, and he taught me that what I want to be. And then, funny enough, when I left the company and we had a
contrast creates perspective.
Absolutely, we had this little retirement gig, and his ego was so big, and I kind of equated to Donald Trump. I said, Ed, I want you to know that I've learned so much from you. And he's like, thank you. And I said, I've learned about fairness, honesty, integrity, business ethics. And he's like, I really appreciate that. And meanwhile, what I'm saying was, you're a bandit. You're everything that's wrong in this world.
Crazy.
So I started starting to understand this balance. So what I like to do is wake up every morning with the understanding and the assumption that everything I do is important, but nothing's urgent. And maybe that's from a sales perspective where two things you can't do. You can't expense control your way into profitability, or you can't panic sell to drive a business. So if I'm responsible for business and development and growth of an organization myself or any others, I think it's critical that it's calm and collective and weighed out. Now I lose my shit, don't get me wrong. Everybody.
Good, because I was like, oh fuck, I gotta work on that.
No, I love it. I'm a gong show, but I do start it with that principle, and I try not to. I guess I always say that everything I do is important. Try not to do things that are absolutely urgent, because I don't think you make conscious decisions. And I always make sure that I'm not hurting anyone in my process, or I'm trying not to let other people down.
Right.
And being open, brutally honest. My New Year's resolution every year is to be more honest, and my children will go, Dad, just back it up a little.
You've hit your goal.
Yeah, well done. But don't ask me if they don't want to know how their hair looks or how that dress looks or whatever. Be careful.
You look like, never mind.
Yeah. So, question for you as a young business guy is you're the same thing. You're getting home, and the most important thing in your life, as you know, is your family.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? And everything you do is for that.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to get caught up in the urgency and the necessity of all the other stuff that's going on in life, right?
Yeah. I was having a conversation earlier about how I could run 10 businesses in the ground, but if I lost one family, it's over.
Yeah. So it's a priority. Paul Maxwell, we got a baby this week.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And I just sent him.
Congrats, Paul. Woo!
I sent him a note just saying the most important thing is right in front of you.
Yeah.
Period. And it sounds so philosophical, but it's so simple.
Yeah.
Right. Prioritize. So.
Did you have a question? Because I got a whole bunch for you still.
No, I just had a question. Is like, how are you juggling this thing? What do you struggle with? I'm an old guy with lots of gray and lots
kids
of,
that are making money.
Lots of whip marks from things doing well. What do you do to check and balance this on the balance?
I think the biggest thing, honestly, is it's in my calendar.
Okay.
Like legitimately, if I were to stop my phone right now and show you, home is in my calendar tonight. Home is in my calendar tomorrow night.
Right.
Home is in my calendar on Saturday. It's really easy for me to say yes to something if I got nothing going on.
Right.
But I learned
there's always something going on.
There's always something.
Kids.
Well, and then it's. But if the calendar's empty and someone says, "What are you doing Thursday night?" and the calendar's empty, nothing.
Right.
Sure. What's up? Hey, we need to have a urgent meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
We need to do it. But my calendar's so full because I'm planning out intentionally what I want to prioritize in my calendar. Because I'm a big thing that. I find it's kind of interesting. I won't touch on it too long because I want to get back to what you're saying with regard to simplification. But when I tell people sometimes that my whole life's in my calendar, and that if only work is in my calendar, that really demonstrates my priority.
Right.
And saying all I care about to keep organized is work. Some people are like, "Wow, isn't that wicked structured? Isn't that a little bit too much planning?" And for me, I'm like, no, it's just I don't put in what I'm going to do when I'm going to do it. I just put where I'm going to be.
Right.
And home just means with my family.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I know what I'm doing at 2 o'clock on Saturday.
Yeah.
I just know I'm going to be with my family. And it's planned out for like 3, 4, 5 weeks in advance. Like I just pick in my home time because I get asked to do shit all the time, and it's really easy to say yes. And the other thing I always learned was, if you say yes to something, you say no to something else.
Yeah.
And if you say no to something, you have an opportunity to say yes to something else. And doing things intentionally, I think, is really important.
Well, that's a gift. I don't have that. It's quite as structured, but I try to say yes to less things.
And the funny thing is, I'm not structured at all. I'm
Well,
a fly by the seat of my pants kind of guy, but I value the fact that I need to do it because a lot of smart people have told me I'm supposed to.
Right.
So I do it, not because I'm wired that way, but because I've learned it's supposed to be a good thing, and it's working out.
Good for you.
So benefits are good. So then coming back to, your end and going through, at the same time though, I don't own 2 businesses, have a family. I'm not the chair of, I'm not doing all of those things. So maybe you can touch a bit more on like that simplification process.
Yeah, just on balance. So it's funny we talked about it because when we were golfing, we were out in the country, and I said I used to have a 100-acre farm just up the road from there.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. When my kids were young, it was beautiful. It was this incredible magic place that we drove in the driveway, and everything, the world stopped, and it was just peaceful, and it was great. But as they go away to university, it becomes less and less, and the things that I thought were important at the time, and they still are, beautification. I wanted gardens, and I wanted bigger lawns, and I started realizing that I think it was creeping in more and more and more. And because I do all these things, and I have dogs, I have a couple dogs, the funny thing is I was driving back home to let the dogs out, to drive back into the city to go to meetings, to do this and to do that. So my partner Lisa, once my second daughter went away to university, we're like, do we need this? In fact, what if we moved into the core and just kind of embrace the change that's going on in Waterloo Region right now and said, I want to be a part of it. I want to be inconvenienced by the LRT construction. Because honestly, and I say it absolutely positive because it shows progress.
Right.
And I wanted to, instead of just being on the outside and eventually getting on the train, I really wanted to be embedded in the whole process. But by doing that, I didn't spend an hour a week cutting the lawn, or every time it snowed, I didn't have to blow the snow out. So it's not from laziness. It's just from sheer value that I started to resent the work that wasn't gratifying or rewarding. Our objective in life is to travel. So you can't travel when you're cutting a lawn on it.
Well, and I think that's such a beautiful way to talk about the value of priorities. And, as much as... So first of all, not many companies have set clear priorities. So then if leaders and companies aren't doing it, it's usually fair that they're not doing it in their families. And I've met very few people that have consciously set priorities inside a family unit. Mm-hmm. And so when I did this exercise with Megan about what her top priorities were and my top priorities, for the most part, it was really good because they were matched up. But sleep wasn't a priority for her, and she was tired.
Right.
Kids 3 under 3. And mowing the lawn wasn't a priority. Like yard work, landscaping wasn't a priority for me, and our lawn was up to my halfway up my shins.
Right.
And so it became very evident.
You're that guy in the neighborhood.
No, I'm not that guy. That's why it was killing me. But I realized why it was happening because of all the things I wanted to be doing. That wasn't the one that I prioritized.
Right.
And when you come back to hey, our priority is to travel.
Right.
Well, then mowing the lawn doesn't necessarily fit that priority.
No, it seems ridiculous, but when you start resenting driving, when you're cutting less lawn because it just doesn't make any more sense, and you're beautifying it and no one's seeing it. Right. To me, it was like, I'm going to pass that on to somebody else that's going to love it. There's a family in that place now that just is on fire. They couldn't be happier. And then now we're able to turn the key and go see the world. So that's the fun part,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
So then, any other kind of tips or tricks on the simplification, the idea of simplifying?
Well, I guess it kind of leads quickly into, we have a few more minutes here, to a new initiative that we've launched in the past year, which is simplifying, sounds crazy, fundraising. So one of the organizations I did some work with, I was parachuted in, and we had the conflict, was an organization that was very successful in selling screwdrivers into the U.S. Sounds crazy.
Well, lots of people use screwdrivers.
Well, every home's got one. There's no instruction manual required. There's some good ones. There's some shitty ones.
Yeah.
We started talking to the people at Lowe's saying, how do we get one of these in every home? And they said, well, it's impossible. And the joke was, well, with an attitude like that, of course it is. But we started thinking, well, how else could we get...
I think a lot of people underestimate what you just said, but it's fair.
so I was pushing back a little bit, and we said, "What if? Yeah. What if we could get one of these in every home?" So what's in every home? There's real estate, there's insurance, there's financial, there's different. And we talked to some of the largest, everything. We talked to every supplier and said, "Oh, it'd be amazing. Your furniture supplier gives a screwdriver and it has a brand on it." Or Nationwide Insurance, we talked to in the U.S. and said, "Put a Nationwide screwdriver in every home that you insure." And they're like, "This is great," but it moved into the trinkets and trash world very quickly. And basically, they're like, "Yeah, for $3 we'll take 500. And if they sell, we'll take 500 more." So my business partner Simon Fowles and I said, let's do something really big, and we started mapping it to what if this tool could be, pardon the pun, used for fundraising. So we approached some of the largest organizations. I won't name them because we're in discussions with them right now. Some of the largest brand of charities in the world, and said, what if there was a cool campaign that was done whereby everyone knows exactly what this is? It was a $25 or $50 purchase, but 50% of the proceeds went to a charity, and it was a campaign. It wasn't a $50 screwdriver. It was a $50 contribution. In return, you got something great that carried brand, and every time you did it. So we realized we were playing by other people's rules. So then we just go back to simplification. We was like, let's just pick one, and we chose cancer, which is shitty, but we've all been affected by it.
Sure,
we'll all continue to be affected by it. The nice thing about it is when we built it through with the hospital foundation, we said, what if we create a campaign, screw cancer? And it's cool and it's great. So we trademarked that in Canada and the US. But we said instead of organizations, all these charities competing for the dollar, what if collectively they could screw cancer? And we created a simple project that a bunch of different charities, hundreds, could use this as an awareness tool, a fundraising tool immediately, and a long-term play for driving brand and connecting with future donors. So as of now, so we have one product, one SKU, one design, one color, one brand, and basically people are attaching into this, and people are using it in all kinds of different ways. But sometimes the simplest thing, the screwdriver, one in every home, is our strategy.
Right.
That's a big ballsy strategy.
Sure.
But there is one in every home.
Yeah.
In fact, there's more.
Yeah.
And what if this one could be given as a gift for someone, a warrior, as someone who's fighting, someone who's made it through, or to remember the person. But by having one SKU, we've simplified fundraising, and we now have 34 organizations across North America using Screw Cancer as a fundraising tool, and collectively one web page. Like, it's just really simple.
Do you know how many homes you're in?
The number grows by the day.
Yeah.
But our objective, foolishly, is one in every home.
Yeah.
Over whatever period of time that takes.
Whatever. That's like, what, 7 billion?
Lots. A shit ton.
Yeah, shit ton.
That's north and south of the border. Shit tons a lot. That's
imperial, right?
Yeah, that's imperial.
That's great. So, what's the website? Like, come on, give us a selfish promotion.
www.screwcancer.today.
Awesome.
The nice thing about it is
That's
you can choose the charity. Thank you. So you can choose the charity that you want to support.
Screwcancer.today.
.today. We're using .today because
Screwcancer today.
Screwcancer.today. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that today is a tag at the end of a domain, but it's really quite exciting, and
that's cool.
The impact. Our objective is to donate $1 million this year to charity.
Awesome, man.
Just to cancer.
Well, help us out. Let's go. Buy a screwdriver. Everybody needs one.
Thank you.
That's cool. I'll go on the record. I'll buy one.
Cool.
Yeah.
So simplicity was the message today, hopefully.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
But it's not that simple, as you know. I mean, Mike Tyson, right? Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
You know what, though?
It's so true.
And I think it's kind of like in line with that idea. I didn't have the time to write this short letter, so I wrote a long one.
Right.
And I think simplicity is the product of a great idea with planning and execution and thought. But if we can focus on the idea of being simple, then we have an opportunity to do lots of things, because the best ideas are typically the simplest. And then I always find it's like, oh, that was, why didn't I think of that?
I know.
Right? But
so if you could write a book on your life so far, what would the title of the book be?
So as you walked in, I'm writing a book.
Okay.
And the title right now is Sales, Leadership, and Bananas.
Okay.
And it's all about the idea that leadership, sales, and marketing are fundamentally on the same principle. And if you figure that out, it actually kind of simplifies the way you approach defining the purpose of an organization, how you attract clients, and how you attract your team.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And coincidentally, I was literally typing it as you walked into the office.
That's cool.
Yeah. I got a deal with the dean of the College of Management and Economics, or College of Management and Economics at U of G, Julia Christensen. He was on the show.
Yep.
That if I get this book written while she's dean, she'll give me the extra credits I need to graduate. Because actually, this is a full-on lie. This shirt says I graduated from a local university just like you, because I was at a job fair in Waterloo. It's erroneous. I'm not. I still got 2.5 credits left.
Fake news.
Yeah, yes, straight up.
Beautiful.
So what would be the title of your book?
It's Just Hair.
Just Hair?
If I would have known I was going to look like this, I wouldn't have worried about the parts and whatever. I would have just done everything.
It's just hair.
Because really, it defined. I joke about it, but back then I was very worried about physical. And I mean, bottom line, I can't be now because it is what it is, right? But I spent a lot of time fretting over the fact that, and maybe it's the same as business, right? Sometimes it just is what it is. Yeah. Sometimes there's an influence that you can't control, i.e. genetics, or there's a customer that you're going down the road and everything's going great. Next thing you know, they're not in that position anymore, and you got to start over. I mean, you can fret about and get angry, but bottom line, it's just hair.
Are you writing it?
No. It's that simple.
That's it. That's the book.
I'm a shitty employed, shitty writer. I can't do that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for doing this, man.
My pleasure. It was fun.
All right. See you guys.